delivered its judgment and held that the decision of the Electoral Commission to reopen the candidate nomination process for the local government elections is not unconstitutional, unlawful and invalid. Now, the DA's application on this matter has been dismissed, even though no order has been made on the costs. And joining us on the line is political analyst Ongama Mtimka. Ongama, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us and a warm welcome to the agenda. What's your reaction to the Constitutional Court's order? Are you at all surprised?
Very vindicated, actually. I did say that it was well within the rights of the Commission to make the finding that it did. So I'm happy that the court shows due consideration to a separation of powers and is not overbearing and drawn by political factors, whoever brings such factors to them. And I'm happy that this decision today actually vindicates that position.
And perhaps one of the areas of contention was that the IEC said that the voter registration weekend was linked to the registration of candidates and not necessarily, allowing another round of candidate registrations. I mean, was the IEC acting in bad faith? I mean, was the DA correct in asserting that the IEC unduly benefited the ANC?
No, the fact that the ANC benefited doesn't make the logic in the approach of the IEC to be wrong. So in the same way that if the IEC went out of its way to benefit, the ANC would have been wrong. It would still be if the IEC does not take a logical decision based on the fear that it would benefit the ANC.
So an argument was also made that the Commission could rely on the principle of impossibility of performance because of the COVID-19 pandemic to have the election postponed from the 27th of October to February next year. Well, the Constitutional Court was unrelenting on that and said that it would have dismissed the Commission's application in any case, insofar as it was based on the COVID-19 pandemic. So we may not be privy to the court's reasoning on this, but COVID-19 still remains a reality and elections are a potential breeding ground as a super spreader. Sure.
So again, the Constitutional Court is very clear here. Part of what justified the actions that have been taken by the executive when it comes to some of the infringements of rights that have come as a result of COVID-19 come under a broad framework of regulations that has to do with, that allows the abrogation of rights under certain regimes, and those regimes include the state of emergencies. It was a stretch to actually include it in the manner that it has as far as managing disasters. In the Disaster Management Act, there are suggestions that as a result of responding to an immediate issue, the rights may be infringed upon and traffic may be redirected, among other things. But my view is that it was a stretch to actually include the kinds of things that have been included, which are accommodated for under the State of Emergency Act. However, it was correct to say that the spirit under which that has happened, as far as other regulations of COVID-19 are concerned, that there's no framework for it as far as in the issue of elections is concerned. And to come up with that framework by going to the courts, which is not a lawmaking platform, would have been wrong. And it's good that the Constitutional Court would have delineated its scope through making sure that it doesn't. Remember that managing national security and emergencies doesn't fall within the ambit of the courts. It falls within the ambit of the executive and parliament.
Now, Ongama, the first judgment of the Constitutional Court, was very critical of the Commission's failure to hold a voter registration weekend before the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs proclaimed the election date. Why is this such an issue, though?
I can't remember that the specific issues pertaining to that. But I do support and understand that the stance of the Commission from the word go, when it had pressure from political parties last year to consider postponing the election, it always had the message, we are ready for an election. What to me kind of got the Commission to be in self-doubt about its own processes was the process that was led by Justice Moseneke, which, by the way, the Commission treated in good faith. I don't agree with the principle that they should be chastised for recognizing that process in good faith, because we are operating under times that are very difficult for any of the institutions of our democracy. So what gave me comfort was the fact that the IEC refused to be driven by political parties. But as soon as a process was led by a retired justice, showed a degree of openness to being influenced, because it is COVID-19 and it didn't need to show it is sticking its head in the sand. So we may be critical of that issue, the fact that it failed to open a voter registration, but I don't read into that a politically motivated decision.
Do you agree then that the EFF contention that the government should have at least amended the disaster management rules before embarking on this on these local government elections, because to allow larger gatherings of people?
No, it's a silly request. Remember, politicians are not bigger than all the other institutions. Political parties are not bigger than all the other institutions that have had to be compelled to operate under these restrictions. Large gatherings were taken for granted by religious institutions, among others. But religious institutions were the first, during the first period of lockdown, to say we are willing to reconsider our approach. That political parties feel that they cannot be held to the same standards, same operating limitations. It just baffles one's mind. It actually underscores this idea that politicians think that they are bigger than society, they are bigger than social institutions. So much that if rules that apply even to businesses should not apply to them. I mean, it's something which to me is showing an attempt to project the political as the ultimate, as the most important of all the political, social, and economic institutions that have had to actually, comply with COVID-19, regardless of what the preferred method of doing things has been.
All right, Ongama, thank you so much for joining us this morning. That is a political analyst, Ongama Mtimka, just sharing with us his reflection on the Constitutional Court's ruling as it has upheld, the democratic alliances, that the nomination process was invalid. All right, this is the